Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to whenever you happen to be listening, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Fourth Inning Podcast, where four friends talk about their one love for sports. Today's episode only includes a couple segments, but we're going to be joined by a special guest later in the show. Today's episode will mainly be focused around Major League Baseball, as we're going to be discussing the current state of the game with all of the negotiations going on. But before we jump into that, I'm going to let Matt give you guys a recap of the past week in the sports world.
Welcome to This Week in Sports, where I go over all the events in the sports world over the last week. First, we start in South Korea for the KBO. The NC Dinos are still in first place at 26-9, with the LG Twins in second at 22-13 and 4 games out of first place. Kang Jin Sung leads the KBO with a .450 batting average, and Roberto Ramos leads the league with 13 homers.
So still no Jose Fernandez, huh?
Yeah, I believe he's hitting around 400.
Hasn't worked his way out of the slump yet.
I don't think he's slumping because he's hitting 405, but
we haven't heard about him.
we haven't. Now we move to NASCAR and the Dixie Vodka 400. A 2-hour rain delay caused this race to go deep into the night. Denny Hamlin eventually pulled this one out, which is his third win of the season. Chase Elliott gets second in this race, and he is still looking to catch a break. Tristan, I know you tuned into this one, as always. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm just happy they let fans in. They let 1,000 fans. There were service members, first responders, and their families.
Alvin Kamara was in attendance.
I don't know. I don't know if he's a serviceman, but he was allowed in, and
Of course.
I'm glad we're finally putting fans in stadiums again,
Yeah.
opening up, starting to get a little more. Let's hope it keeps up that way. Lastly, we had the Colonial Golf Course for some PGA golf. The Charles Schwab Challenge took place from June 11th to June 14th, with 18 holes not being enough to decide the winner. Daniel Berger beat Colin Morikawa in a one-hole playoff, winning by a single stroke. I actually watched the last part of this. I found it really interesting, really exciting. I'm glad that the PGA is back.
This was the first golf, I think,
believe
since
so,
the
yeah.
match, right?
I wasn't able to watch it.
You
Sadly.
were able to watch it?
No.
Why not?
Wasn't home in time.
You weren't home? Yeah, me neither.
I had
I
priorities.
wonder why.
You got a big fan over here. You watched it on his phone or something.
I did. I was on my phone a few times throughout the day. And
Just a few times.
yeah, just a little bit. And
Wonder what the golf score's looking like.
yeah,
I haven't checked
It's
the golf
very,
scores
it's
in a
very
while.
interesting.
it is very interesting. And instead of passing this one on to Tristan for Let's Rank It, I'm going to hand it off to Josh for our first ever guest onto the show.
Welcome back to the Fourth Inning Podcast. As Matt said earlier, we're ecstatic to introduce our first guest to the show. Today, Chris from the Turn a Pair Baseball Podcast will be joining us and answering some questions we stirred up for him. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
We're good.
Good.
You're our first guest on the show, so welcome.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be your first guest. Usually, I'm the one doing the interviewing. It's always fun, though, to be the one being interviewed. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, of course. Before we get started, you want to tell the viewers where they can find your podcast?
Yeah, so you can find me in a couple different places. I'm on Twitter at TurnAPairChris. I'm on Instagram at TurnAPair Baseball Podcast. You can find my actual podcast on a number of different places. So here's what you want to do. Get your phone out, unlock it, open up either iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play, one of those three, and search Turn a Pair Baseball Podcast. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. You could also find me on YouTube. Go to YouTube, go to Turn a Pair Baseball Podcast, and hit subscribe. Give you a little bit of background on my show. I interview major league and minor league players. Occasionally, we bring in broadcasters, baseball announcers, and major and minor league coaches as well. But primarily, we interview ball players, and we cover their journey. It's a lot of fun, so check us out.
Yeah, make sure to go subscribe to his YouTube channel. If I'm not mistaken, you created that recently, right?
I did, yeah. I've done about 100 episodes on, just the audio forms on podcasts. And I started doing, during quarantine, I started doing Zoom calls where I bring in my latest Zoom call. I have 3 major league players on, and the four of us just talked for an hour, and we talked through their journey, and they tell some funny stories. They're all three really close friends, and so we had a good time. We had some good laughs. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Awesome. So let's hop right into the questions. So when and how did the idea of first starting a podcast come to mind?
Well, how much time do we have here?
Oh, we have all night. Don't worry.
Great. So as a little kid, I always wanted to be a play-by-play announcer. Grew up a Cubs fan. Harry Carey was the guy. I loved listening to him. I used to actually watch Cubs games or Bulls games, and I would mute the TV, and I would record myself announcing the game. This is like little 8-9-year-old me. Fast forward, I go to college. I go to Indiana University. I studied broadcast journalism with the intention of being ideally a baseball announcer. And I went on to work in baseball, although I never worked in broadcasting. I had a few opportunities that seemed to be there, but they didn't materialize. And rather than just continuing to follow my dream, I instead just chased money, which probably was a better thing to do.
Yeah.
Because baseball announcers, it takes a long time to get to the point where you're making, really good money. And so I can watch baseball as a fan, as a hobby. And after years of sort of complaining about missing out on that dream, my wife just said finally, was like, start a podcast. So in 2018, that's what I did. And now I interview baseball players, and that's my hobby, my outlet, and it's been great.
That's
awesome. A lot of good things have come as a result.
So I heard you mention the Bulls. Did you watch The Last Dance?
Oh my gosh, I was so locked in. My wife and I both grew up in the Chicagoland area, so we were both we both still are Bulls fans, although they're not very good. But it was cool for my kids who are into basketball, and so they got to learn a lot about Michael Jordan and the Bulls and what we got to experience as kids, and it was great family viewing. Although there was a lot of swearing.
There was. But
my kids have heard it, but not as much on TV.
Yeah, all four of us watched it, and we all loved it. It was pretty cool. All right, back to the podcast side of things. Do you remember how your first episode went?
Yeah, my very first episode was just me talking about my journey through baseball. That
Awesome.
was not very exciting. Probably more exciting would be my second and third episode. My second episode was I interviewed a friend of mine who was a former minor league announcer. That was like my trial run.
Yeah.
That was fun. My third interview was sort of like the first real big one. Sorry to my buddy Matt. But my third one was with Matt Laporta, different Matt. Matt Laporta was a first overall pick, first round pick, fourth overall pick by the Milwaukee Brewers, and was a stud played in the SEC, played for Florida, signed a humongous contract, as you can imagine, as the fourth overall pick. Ended up was the top prospect in the Brewers organization. And in 2007, 2008, one of those years, the Brewers traded him to Cleveland for CC Sabathia. And Matt Laporta was the primary piece that went back to Cleveland on that trade.
Wow.
And it would have been a great trade, except for Matt had some unfortunate injuries. And in his early 30s, he's already had both of his hips replaced, which is kind of crazy. But Matt was a great first guest, and really kind of helped propel me into where I'm at today.
Yeah, it just sucks seeing these young and promising prospects just battle through injuries throughout the minor leagues, and it's just kind of a shame to see them not fall off, but I guess not reach their potential.
Yeah, Matt had a chance he made it up to the big leagues, and really did quite well when he was playing, when he was healthy. I think had he been able to stay healthy, he would have been a guy that would have been, probably a mid-20s, mid-30s home run guy, consistently at the top of the leaderboard in home runs, with good on base and good slugging. So he would have been your prototypical corner outfield, kind of 4-5 hitter. But unfortunately, injuries took that away from him.
Well, speaking of like baseball experience, Blake has a question for you right here.
So,
yeah.
I know you said you played high school baseball growing up, and we were just wondering, how was that experience for you?
Well, it was interesting. I was a decent high school baseball player. I wouldn't by any means say I was a superstar. I was good enough to make the team. I started on varsity my senior year. I'll give you some advice. Don't go to parties because when the police come, you get in trouble, and then you get suspended. So that's my advice to all you young ball players. I was not a guy that partied in high school. That didn't come until I was 21. No, really a little bit earlier than that. It was college.
You?
But yeah, in Indiana, that was when I hit my stride in the party range. But I was a good, clean-cut kid in high school. I just happened to be at a party where the police came, and unfortunately that derailed my high school career.
Jeez.
On the same night that we beat the number 1 team in the state. So
Wow.
the celebration was short-lived.
I got a question for you too. Besides baseball, what other sports did you play growing up?
So I played, being from Indiana, you have to play basketball.
Yeah.
But I wasn't good enough to play in high school. I was, whatever. I enjoyed playing, but I wasn't good enough. I went to a big high school. I played football as a kid from 4th grade until my freshman year of college, and I was pretty good. I was pretty good through, middle school. Actually was on a team. I was the starting left guard and center on a team that went to the final 8 in the country in Pop Warner football.
Jeez.
We were really good. We got beat by the team that eventually won the national championship. But I got to high school, and right now I'm, 6 foot, 185 pounds. As a freshman in high school, I was probably 5'9", 150 pounds, no muscle. I was not that fast, so I got crushed, absolutely crushed. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to stick to baseball. I don't get beat up too bad in baseball physically. So
playing 3 sports, that's impressive regardless. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, I didn't play. I played in high school. I played 2 sports my freshman year, and then sophomore, junior, senior year was just baseball.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, I got a question for you. Have you ever had a guest on your show that just stood out from all the others, or has it been pretty equal amongst the bunch you had?
Wow, there are so many crazy stories that I've heard. Right, so I've had Slade Heathcott on the show. Slade Heathcott, when he was in high school, lived in just really rough conditions. Both of his parents had some battles. They were some challenges they were battling through. Dad showed up at the house ready to cause physical harm to Slade and his mom. Slade opened the door and put a shotgun to his dad's chest. That was one story he told. The other story he told was that he got really drunk at a party while in high school and ended up blacking out, broke into a house because he thought it was his own house, and the woman living at the house, pulled her shotgun out and pulled the trigger while it was point blank up against his chest, but it misfired.
Oh, God.
And that moment changed his life. He ended up, he cleaned up his act and ended up, cleaned it up for the most part. Ended up getting drafted. He was a first-round pick by the Yankees, made it all the way up to the big leagues. Actually had a walk-off home run in the big leagues in his rookie year. So
that's awesome.
That was one that really stands out. But there's been so many just incredible stories of guys overcoming incredible odds. Tommy Parsons was a D3 guy that didn't even get drafted. Here we are, fast forward to this season. So that was 2018. Signed as a free agent in 2019. And already is one of the Cardinals' top prospects. Undrafted D3 free agent.
That's crazy.
In one season is one of the Cardinals' top prospects. So, just a great guy to boot. So, some really good stories. I could go on for hours of just the guys I've met and the women that I've met as well. Some incredible women that I've had on the show. They're involved in Major League Baseball. So, impressive folks.
I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier this week. It was I I forget who, but it was someone who grew up in Louisiana. He went to a JUCO, and now he was drafted, I believe. Or was he drafted? I forget.
Could have been Cole Freeman.
Yes, that's who it was.
Yeah, played it. Are you talking about the guy that played at LSU?
Yep.
Yep, Cole Freeman.
Yeah, that was cool to hear stories like that. So
Cole's a great example of a guy who was a good high school baseball player, but not good enough to play D1.
Yeah.
And so he took the JUCO route. He was very disappointed at the fact that JUCO was the route he had to go. But he went to JUCO, he made the most of it, and ended up playing at LSU and became a star. I mean, LSU gives the number 8 to elite. It's like wearing number 3 as a quarterback at Notre Dame. Only the guys they think epitomize what they want the program to be get that number. His senior year was given that number. And this was a guy who just a couple years prior to that, no D1 school wanted him. And now here he's at a premier SEC powerhouse wearing their premier number that guys like Alex Bregman have worn.
Yeah.
So, pretty impressive story from Cole Freeman.
It's crazy. So, speaking of stories, did you end up watching the Long Gone Summer documentary?
You know, I did, and I was disappointed because
it was all Mark McGwire.
At some point here that I'm a Cubs fan, and they made it out like it was going to be 50-50 Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, but it was really a Mark McGwire.
Yeah, it was not.
With a couple side shots on Sammy Sosa. So yeah.
I mean, after the show, they had a E60 over Sammy Sosa, so I watched that, and it really gave me the story about Sammy Sosa over McGwire.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't see that. I'll have to go back and check that out. I'm sure I can find it somewhere. But, you know, it's interesting. Sammy was, you know, such a charismatic ball player. And, I mean, I was, in 1998, I was 17 years old. Sammy, so I was the same age, roughly the same age you guys are now. Every kid that played, when you hit a ball out of the park, which I wasn't a home run hitter, but, of course, you know, if you really got a hold of one, you flipped the bat, you did the hop. I mean, one of my best friends played right field. I played second base. When we got an out, Sammy would do this thing where he would, like, you know, 2 outs. You know, you put your index finger and your pinky finger up, and he would sort of like pound it against his thigh and his chest, back and forth, and he would put up the 2. And we did that all the time. Like every out, I would turn around, we'd do it to each other. It was great. And Sammy influenced so many kids my age and younger. He was he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
It's almost like he had a Jordan impact on the city.
He was. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, 1998, you had the Bulls winning a title, and you had Sammy Sosa hitting 66 home runs. So that city at that time, I remember, was just on fire that summer.
Yeah, Sosa definitely didn't have the worldwide recognition like Jordan, but in that city, I could definitely tell he was big.
Oh, yeah, people want him. The Cubs have sort of shunned him for reasons that I understand at the time. At this point, it's like, you know what? Bring the guy back, retire his number, put a statue in front of the ballpark, and let's go. Let's move on from it. The fans want him back. If Sammy comes back in, I saw that he said he's in good enough shape he could sprint out to right field. I want to see Sammy Sosa sprint out to right field. The place would go absolutely bananas.
That actually leads perfectly into our next question, but you almost kind of already answered it, but it was, would you like to see Sosa come back to Wrigley Field and maybe even throw out a first pitch? So I think something like that would be crazy.
Yeah, I just answered it. Yeah, bring him back. Let's do it. Let's go. I was on the no train for a while.
Yeah.
But I've come around, and it's probably because at this point I used to be a fan of Cubs ownership, but I'm so against ownership in baseball in general right now that whatever the owners of a baseball team think, I am 100% going to say the opposite because I'm so angry at them.
I don't blame. That's how a lot of people feel right now.
Yeah.
I just want to see some baseball.
Baseball. There will be baseball. Obviously, you guys are playing baseball, but independent baseball leagues, the American Association's coming back. They actually start July 3rd, so there'll be some baseball. It just won't be the baseball we're used to in front of 40,000 people.
Yeah, we actually have a team called the Florence Yalls up here, or maybe 10 minutes away from where we live, and that's an independent team. So it'll be exciting to see.
I love that team, by the way.
Do you?
The Yalls?
The Yalls,
well, I mean, I know nothing about them. I couldn't name one player on the team. But just the Florence, the fact that the name is the Yalls.
Yeah, they were
and
just
the story
renamed.
behind it.
Yeah, they just changed it.
Yeah, they just changed it. This will be their first. Are they actually going to play it this season?
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
But they
Well, you guys.
showed some new uniforms. They got some powder blue uniforms.
Yeah,
Excited
those
to
look
see
good.
those.
They're beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Hey, do you guys understand? I mean, you guys probably do because you're from the area. Do you guys know the significance behind the name Yalls?
Yeah.
Yes, the tower. The
Water tower.
Yeah,
Tower,
the water
yeah.
tower. They
Yeah.
had y'all on the water tower, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And before we wrap it up, we got one more question that isn't really baseball related, but do you think a hot dog is a sandwich? Big question.
Oh man, the pressure is on. I've seen this question floated around so many places, and I always laugh at some people get really fired up about it. If it's not a sandwich, then I don't really know what it is. I mean, to me, a sandwich is 2 pieces of bread, and ideally you throw a piece of meat in between it, and then you garnish it up with some pickles and relish and. Well, if you're from Chicago, you put sport pickles and you put some tomatoes and some celery salt, and you do it up Chicago style. I think it's a sandwich, guys. I hope that's the right answer. I hope I didn't offend you guys. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think it's a sandwich.
It's got to be a sandwich.
Yeah, it has to be. What else could you?
I
call it?
don't think it's a sandwich because a proper hot dog connects at the bottom. So there's only one
most
side.
of the time when you try to open it, it always rips in half anyway.
Not really. That just happens because
Yeah.
it happens.
If it's not a sandwich though, Josh, what is it?
It's a hot dog.
It's its own category.
It's a hot
Exactly.
dog.
Exactly. We could throw this on
If the bun
hot
gets,
take.
If the bun gets ripped, then
Yes. Then it's a
in
sandwich.
the hot dog world, then it's a sandwich. But
Yes.
in the hot dog world, I tell you what, there's nothing more frustrating than when the bun rips.
Oh,
Because now all your condiments and your accessories are spilling out the bottom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the condiments on there. But that's it from us, Chris. You got anything to say? Any more shout outs?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's super cool. I think, I obviously had you guys on my show. I'm excited to share that with the world.
Yeah.
I think the people that listen to my show will enjoy you guys. And, I'll say, by the way, I'll tell you a quick ice cream story. We're talking about ice cream. So I just recorded an episode last night with Dimitri Kokoris, who is a Toronto Blue Jays pitching coach. And I asked him, I said, hey, you visited the mound probably 1,000 times in your career. What's some of the wildest things you've ever said to a pitcher or that's been said back to you on the mound? And he says he does this all the time when guys are just super wound up and they just need to be relaxed. He'll walk out to the mound, he'll kick dirt around, and he'll say, and real serious, he'll look up and he's like, hey, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And it just relaxes him. And then he'll go around and ask the first baseman, the second baseman, the shortstop, and the third baseman. They'll all talk about it. And then he'll go into, once everyone's kind of relaxed, he'll talk about, all right, now let's go curveball away. Let's go two-seamer in. Let's get this guy out. We'll get a double play, roll him up. We're good to go. And then when the umpire comes out to break it up, he'll turn and look at the umpire and say, hey, we're talking about ice cream. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And he's like, it's amazing how that relaxes everybody.
Yeah.
So go check that episode out. Go to iTunes or Spotify or Google Play and subscribe to the Turn a Pair Baseball podcast. Listen to the incredible stories from Dimitri Kokoris and, of course, all the other people we've had on the show.
Yeah, make sure you guys go do that. Well, Chris, thank you again. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's my pleasure.
All right, guys, after the break, we're going to follow it up and finish it with Douglas's hot take. Welcome back to the Fourth Inning Podcast. Before I give the floor to Matt for his hot take, on this day in sports, June 18th, 1960, Arnold Palmer beats a young Jack Nicklaus by 2 strokes to win the U.S. Open.
Wow, thanks, Josh. Whoa, it's that time of the episode, the joke of the week, where I tell a funny joke at a random point.
Let's hear it, Matt.
So this week's joke is, Where do catchers sit at lunch?
Where?
Where?
Behind the plate.
Not as good
it's
as
a
last
very
week.
similar
but-
No,
joke
that
to
was
last
good.
week's.
I like that one.
I stuck with the eating.
It's basically the same thing as
It's
last
the
week.
same thing.
No, there's a
It's
difference.
Yeah.
That's my favorite by far.
It's your favorite?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Out of all the 5 episodes.
Thank you.
Bold.
We
That's
have
That's
two
a bold
catchers here.
We do have 2 catchers here.
And so, can you guys also relate to the fact that this is true that catchers?
Yes, I do eat
sit-
behind a plate.
Do you also and you sit behind home plate while you catch?
Yes.
I hope. Okay.
So
good.
the joke works for us both
it
ways.
It really works both ways.
Yeah, that's why it's number
It
1.
does.
We should rank that.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's rank it.
And now, welcome to Douglas's Hot Take, where every episode I deliver an unpopular sports opinion and we discuss it. This week's hot take is that the Tampa Bay Rays will win the AL East.
I agree. I'm going to agree with you on this one, Matt. That if they really hold it together for the second half of the season, I think they're going to pull it out.
Well, there won't be much of a second half if we play a 50-game season here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to disagree on this one. I mean, I think the Rays will definitely be in the playoffs, but I don't think they can win the division with the Yankees and maybe even the Red Sox with them up there.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I just don't see them beating out a team like the Yankees, especially Yankees looking healthy going into the season. Doesn't always mean anything, but
Yeah, their pitching staff obviously
That's a mistake.
adding Garrett Cole. They're gonna get Luis Severino back with Tanaka and guys like J. Happ and Montgomery. I mean, that alone's pretty nasty. Plus they're probably the best bullpen in baseball.
You know what other starting rotation is nasty?
The Rays, yeah.
yeah,
Tampa Bay Rays.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
but
If we can talk about lineups if you want, because
yeah, if you want to compare them to
no.
the Yankees,
if the Rays
No.
if they keep their hitting together, like
Yes.
if their hitting's
who's
good,
gonna,
they're gonna because their bullpen and pitching, it's just gonna.
Yeah, they have a great starting. The Rays have a great starting pitching staff with Charlie Martin, who was a 15-plus game winner last year, with Blake Snell, who didn't have the Cy Young year that he had the year before. But
Blake Snell's very good.
I'm feeling
But-
a bounce back year to get back to his Cy Young contender.
Last year they did lead the AL in the team ERA with
Yeah.
3.65.
And
so
Tyler Glass now also 1.78 ERA with a 6-1 record for the time he was up.
they just need to hit.
Yeah,
do.
but they also
yeah, but who's gonna do that?
they lost some of their production.
I can tell you.
They lost some of their production on the hitting side of the ball. Travis d'Arnaud signed with the Braves, and also guys like Jesus Aguilar, who was in the home run derby. Was it last year?
No, I think it was with Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah,
Matt-
he also left.
Also lost
Let's hear the
Tommy,
guys that.
Tommy Pham.
They
obviously.
also lost Avicial Garcia.
Avisol.
Avisol?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I believe
But-
so.
he hit top of the lineup last year, right-handed
The
batter.
Tampa Bay Rays, they also have Austin Meadows. He's good. He's underrated. And he's overall, yeah. Hunter Renfroe, he's also good. We're not talking about the college football player. We're
Yeah.
talking about the Major League
Well,
Baseball
NFL now, but it's all right.
Well, I mean,
That's another story.
player. And
I mean, guys like DJ LeMahieu are kind of good.
Yeah.
Luke Voigt's solid. Gary Sanchez is.
Well, consider when you
He's
think
alright.
you think of the
Well-
Yankees, and the first person that comes to mind is not DJ LeMahieu, and he did make MVP run last year.
well, and G-Man Choi.
Oh, I forgot about him.
G-Man
Oh,
Choi,
boy.
big power hitting first baseman. He can hit for contact and power. He showed that in the division series against Houston. The Rays have been underrated in the AL East for a while, especially the last 2 years.
I don't.
I think they've been almost overhyped because they never can finish the season.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago they got 90 wins, didn't make the playoffs. That was kind of disappointing, just because the Red Sox and Yankees were both dominant that year. But last year they did get their chance in the playoffs, and they just didn't really live up to the expectations they were getting. So I think this year it should be interesting. Obviously, if they do play with the shortened schedule, it'll be interesting, especially with their pitching staff they have.
I feel like they're gonna have a better chance with a shortened schedule because they're always good in the first half. Then they have that All-Star break, and they just go downhill.
Not really downhill, just not as uphill as
they
were
go
going.
downhill.
I think their
Just
record,
flatten out
well,
more.
going what off Josh was
They
saying,
flatten the curve.
Yeah.
only winning 90 games in 2018, winning 96 in 2019. They'll have a very good record in this division with struggling teams like possibly Boston, Baltimore, and Toronto.
No, but Boston's going to struggle. I mean, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Struggling, but this
Still-
year's kind of looking. Fine.
Anything
It's
could
looking.
happen this year.
Anything can happen.
You never
except-
know.
With this
except-
schedule, anything can happen. But yeah, you could just take the Nationals as an example. Last year, they got really hot, in a stretch last year, and they just took off and they're World Series champions. So if any team gets hot, it'll be fun to watch come postseason time.
You can't really predict what's going to happen, especially with everything going on this year in the baseball world. But I think that the Tampa Bay Rays will pull this one off and they'll make the playoffs this year.
By winning the division or wild card?
By winning the division.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening when they're playing in a division with the Yankees. I just don't think there's any team in the American League, even in the MLB, who's going to be without the Yankees this year.
Yeah, I don't even think I've mentioned Aaron Judge.
I mean, they just have one of the most loaded rosters.
Yeah, and they get
in years.
If Stanton gets anything close to what he was a few years ago, then
Bruh.
But if the Yankees do stay
we shall
healthy
learn.
the whole year, they're one of the best teams.
I don't-
Maybe not even that. Just
They may be one of the best teams in baseball, but I think
they haven't even been healthy the past couple of years.
No,
but they're still
last
contenders
year,
every year.
last year they had so many guys in the DL and still had an incredible record just by that. So I think they could have 3 starters get injured, and this team would still be World Series bound, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're gonna I think they're gonna win it because only if
From the wild card.
no the race.
yes. I
Only
agree.
if their hitting stays consistent the whole year.
Yeah, and
Well, all right.
that wraps up the 5th episode of the 4th Inning Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you tune in next week. And remember to get 4% better every day. See ya.